Hey guys, Mer here from IELTS Academy. I'm here today to talk to you about the latest IELTS speaking questions. It is always a good idea to practice different questions and topics before the test. However, you don't need to worry. When we talk to our candidates, many of them tell us that their main concern in IELTS speaking is that they don't have a very wide range of vocabulary. Tell you what, it's fine. Not everyone has got the vocabulary to talk about all the familiar and unfamiliar topics. Besides, there is no need to have information about everything so that you can answer all the questions. What you need is strategies. Okay guys, what we want to do today is to take a look at some of the latest IELTS speaking questions in part 1 in 3 different topics, and I will give you my answers to them. Then I will explain why I gave those answers, analyzing them based on IELTS criteria. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so as you see here, we have 3 different topics in part 1 of IELTS speaking. The first one is about hometown, the second one is concentration, and the third one is childhood. What we do now is to just read the questions to see what they talk about, and then we can just listen to my answers. So let's start with the first topic. The first topic was about hometown, and the first question is, what's your hometown known for? The second question is, do you think you'll continue living there for a long time? The third one is, how has your town changed in the last 20 years? Now the second topic, concentration. The first question is, when is it hard for you to concentrate? The second question is, in what situations do you need to concentrate? And the third one is, what do you do to improve your concentration? And the last topic, childhood. The first question says, did you enjoy your childhood? The second question says, what is your first memory of your childhood? And the third one, do you think it is better for children to grow up in the city or in the countryside? Okay, what I want you to do now is to just take a look at these questions again and think of what you can give as the answer to these questions, like what structures you want to use, what collocations, the connectives, generally the answer that you want to give to these questions. So take your time, think about that, and then I will give you my answers to these questions. Okay, now let's start with the first topic, hometown. Here's the first question. What's your hometown known for? Here's my answer. I live in a spectacular neighborhood which is famous for its multiculturalism, open-air markets, and unique landmarks. I have been living here since I was a child, but at the moment, my family lives in another country. Now, the second question. Do you think you'll continue living there for a long time? Here is my answer. I believe so. As I mentioned earlier, there are several reasons why I am not planning on moving to another country, such as the beautiful nature of my town, the nice people surrounding me, plus the work opportunities I can get here. Now the third question. How has your town changed in the last 20 years? Here's my answer. The only thing that pops into my mind is how the city has become more modern during the last 20 years. If you take a walk around the city, you can see big shopping centers, restaurants, and shops that weren't there a few years ago. Okay, before we move on to the second topic, which was about concentration, I want to just analyze my answers in the first topic, hometown. Let's see what I have used based on what you're expected to use in IELTS speaking. So in the first one, in the first answer, you can see that some words, some collocations, or some phrases are marked in red. These are my collocations, like the vocabulary I have used, because in the second criteria of IELTS speaking, which is lexical resource, you are expected to use collocations, idiomatic language, or to paraphrase some words, and also you should use some fillers and boosters. Now just to start with the collocations in red. For example, the first word, spectacular, which means wonderful, or multiculturalism, open air markets, which means the outdoor markets, or unique landmarks. So these are some words that are used in this topic to talk about my hometown. Now in the second question, for example, you can use work opportunities. Or the third one, the only thing that pops into my mind. It means the only thing that I can think of. Now, there are some words marked in blue. These are the synonyms because you are also expected to use direct synonyms in your answers. This is called paraphrasing, which means that you should not use what exactly you hear in the examiner's question, but also you should just use some direct synonyms to paraphrase them. But remember, just direct synonyms, whatever you are 100% sure about. For example, in the first answer, neighborhood, instead of hometown, I use the word neighborhood. Or in the question it says, what's your hometown known for? And in my answer, I used my hometown or my neighborhood is famous for something. In the third answer, like the question says, how has your town changed in the last 20 years? And in the answer, I use the word city. Or during the last 20 years instead of in the last 20 years. Other than that, you should make sure to use a range of connectives and discourse markers. Just to mention some of these connectives here, in the first answer I used the word but, which is a simple connective. But other than that, the word even though to show the contrast. In the second answer, I used the word plus to add more information, like and. That's why, to give the reason to something. So you should just try to use a range of connectives. And if you haven't watched the video of the connectives on our YouTube channel, the alternatives to and, so, but, and because, make sure to watch them. And now the second topic, concentration. Here's the first question. When is it hard for you to concentrate? And my answer. It may sound a bit funny, but when I have to listen to someone I'm not interested in, I find it hard to stay focused. The thing is that these boring people talk too much about themselves, and when telling a story, it takes them forever to make a point. Now the second question. In what situations do you need to concentrate? Here's my answer. Well, being focused is a necessity in my job. As I have a demanding job, I should pay a lot of attention to it. Besides that, I need to concentrate well while cooking, as I am not really good at that. Otherwise, I will burn the food in a second. And now the third question. What do you do to improve your concentration? My answer is, actually these days I simply get distracted as I have become more reliant on my phone because of my work. As a result, when I want to dedicate my time to reading, the notifications stop me from focusing. What I do is to put my phone on the silent mode in order to concentrate better. Now let's analyze my answers. So first we start with the collocations, which are marked in red, just like the first topic. For example, in the first answer I have used, I find it hard instead of saying it's hard for me. Or it takes them forever, it means it takes them a long time. Make a point, which means to say something of particular importance. Or in my second answer, a demanding job, it means an intense job with a lot of responsibilities. To pay a lot of attention to something. Or in the third one, to get distracted. Or I am reliant on something. It means I depend on or I rely on something. I dedicate my time to something. Or I put my phone on silent mode. You put your phone on silent mode. Other than that, some direct synonyms I have used. A good paraphrasing. Like in the first answer, instead of saying to concentrate, I used to stay focused. So you can concentrate on something, or you can focus on something, or also you stay focused. Or get distracted. In the second one, instead of saying something is necessary, I said it is a necessity in my job. It's crucial. It's very important. And finally, the connectives I have used. Like in the first answer, I have used some simple ones, but in the second answer, as instead of because or since. Besides that, to add more information, or otherwise. In the third answer, I have used because of to talk about the reason of something. As a result, to talk about the result. And in order to, instead of using the word to, I have used in order to. You should just remember that other than these elements and whatever I have used in my answers, it is also important to have a good intonation, pronunciation, your word stress, your sentence stress, and also the grammatical structures that you use, to use some complex structures. Now let's move on to the third topic, childhood. So the first question says, did you enjoy your childhood? Here's my answer. Actually, I did. I had a carefree childhood and had nothing to worry about, as my parents had a really good relationship and tried to teach these values to me and my sister. The second question says, what is your first memory of your childhood? My answer is, the very first recollection I have is about a friend I had at age 5. If my memory helps, she was called Sarah, with whom I spent all my evenings. Our moms used to take us to parks and we played happily for hours. Now the third question. Do you think it's better for children to grow up in the city or in the countryside? Here's my answer. In my idea, either the city or the countryside can be good for a child to grow up there, as each has its own charms. For instance, the countryside has a clean air and a lively atmosphere, while in the city there are more facilities. Now let's see what I have used in my answers. Like in the first one, to talk about the collocations and the vocabulary, which are marked in red. You can see that I have used a carefree childhood. So I'm talking about the childhood that you can have in which you have no problems and no concern and you're just happy. Or in the third one, the charms of countryside or the city, which means the beauties. A lively atmosphere, it means an atmosphere full of life. Also, I have used some synonyms, like in the second answer, instead of my first memory, I used my first recollection. And how I have used some fillers and boosters, because that is also very important. Whenever you run out of ideas or you don't know what else to say, you can just use some fillers and boosters to buy yourself some time. For example, in the second one, the question was, what is your first memory of your childhood? And as I should talk about something in the past, one of my memories, I have used, if my memory helps, or as I remember, if I remember correctly. Or in the third one, in my idea, you can also use in my opinion, in my point of view, in my perspective, to talk about your idea instead of just giving the answer directly. And finally, some connectives I have used. For example, in the first answer, I have used as, and, or besides. In the second one, I have only used and, a very simple one. But in the third one, either or, because this can also help you make some better structures. Or while, to show the contrast here. So these connectives and also some other structures are really useful, not only in your fluency and coherence, the first criteria, but also in your grammatical range and accuracy, the other criteria in IELTS speaking. You just need to make sure to work on all these criteria and not only one. Because, for example, you may have a very good range of vocabulary, but not a good pronunciation. Or you may use very good structures, but not good connectives, or you don't develop the topic sufficiently. So be careful with all these details. And I really recommend you to use the speaking mock tests, because they can really help you to see what score you get in each criteria and what your overall band score is. So make sure to use all these things. Very well, guys, just like what we did today, you can look for speaking questions, give your own answers to them, record yourself, and then analyze your answers. If you want to be evaluated by us, book an online speaking mock test with our examiners. It will make a big difference, trust me. I wish you best of luck and see you very soon.
Speaking course. This course is made up of 5 offline speaking videos in which you will learn all the necessary tips and techniques to take the IELTS speaking test with a high score.
Tell me about your family. Do you like...
In addition to that, you will have access to useful grammar and vocabulary resources. Once you finish your course, you will have 1 online mock test of speaking along with comprehensive feedback under the same exam conditions.
Interesting question.
Join us to become our next successful candidate.